All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's the LongBox Paradox, episode 92. I am Dan, your host, with the lovely Jennifer at Comic Books Will Break Your Heart, or Comics Will Break Your Heart on YouTube. And we're joined by our special guest, John's Comics with Kids. And we have new comics to talk about. We have Vertigo to talk about because we all kind of shared our love and chat about Vertigo comics. And I don't think it gets enough attention anymore. Like, it's like a lost thing. And unfortunate that it no longer exists.
It kind of is a lost thing. I like rest in peace. Pour one out for our homies at Vertigo Comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like once it got really wrapped in with DC, it was kind of the end of the end there.
Did Image kind of kill them too? Because people with those off-brand ideas, all of a sudden Image became that home for those ideas?
Maybe they, because I feel like DC did have, hey, Perry Comics.
John loves Man of Steel.
Perry and I were joking because he's finally he's tomorrow, I think he's dropping his reaction video to Man of Steel. And he was trying to understand why people hated it. And I was trying to explain to him why it was not as popular as others. But
when Jonathan Kent has him save the dog and not him.
I pointed out that scene. I was like, there's no way, even with his like slowly growing new superpowers, that he couldn't have saved his dad. There's just
I would have loved Russell Crowe riding a fucking dragonfly around Krypton. I could have watched that the whole movie and then had him to get sent. Like that part, like the Krypton stuff, I loved.
Yeah. The Twister scene makes no sense. It's illogical on every level.
That was the Deus Ex Machina. We need him to leave Kansas. How are we going to do this?
Right. I mean, Dad just let him have his heart attack. It always works, right? Just let him have his heart attack.
And it's something he can't stop. That's what made it beautiful, because it's the thing he realizes. Oh no, this is a dark corridor I don't want to go to.
Yeah, we don't want to get into DC movies until we get to the fandom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I want to take a moment. I'd be remiss if I didn't. And last week I meant to, but our guest Rodney Barnes took over the entire episode, and I wasn't going to stop that dude from talking.
Nobody has
fascinating guy, like 100%. So last week the YouTube IG comic community suffered a loss with Edwin the Comic Jabroni passing. He was a good friend of yours, John. And his family is in need of help. So if you put in Jabroni Nation, you'll find the links to the GoFundMe or their shirts where 100% of the proceeds are going to the family. I didn't have a lot of interactions with him. Most of what I saw was basically you guys on Rod's show.
Sure.
But if you have any way of donating or just buying a shirt, please do so. And it honestly made me feel good seeing the community come out like they did, donating and promoting and pushing it, and you realize how much he meant to the community as a whole. Again, I didn't know him super well, but he meant a lot to a lot of people, and he entertained a lot of people. So if you can give anything, just go ahead. He had a wife, 2 kids. I didn't want to bring the show down at the beginning, but just if anybody can, I know my viewers are different from their viewers. So with that, just if you do, thank you. Okay, so now that I've done my piece.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, a lot of people have been doing stuff, like you said.
I bought a shirt.
Comic Tom even produced a special shirt just for Jabroni, and you can buy it on Comic Tom's shop on his website. And all the money goes to the Jabroni family, and it's weird saying that because they're the Ocasio family, but I understand the Jabroni family. There's several different shirts you can buy, and
just the hashtag Jabroni Nation. You'll find all of it.
Tomorrow, Metaphorical is doing an auction pretty much all day where all the proceeds go. It's just amazing. It's been amazing.
Yeah, like I said, the community coming together like it has, and it's one of those things where sometimes like you wonder about the comic community because they're either fighting with each other, and then the YouTube community, you kind of have your cliques.
Yeah.
So it is really nice to see everybody kind of come together on this.
And I feel like he was definitely like part of that community that brought people together. He wasn't like any, and you know, some of the community is very, very toxic. A lot of it actually, and I think that there's this very like rare part that is community oriented, and I think that he was definitely part of that community oriented. So it's sad to see him go, but it's been amazing to see the community come together like in his honor for that. So that's been very special.
And yeah, my thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and I hope everything. It's heartbreaking. I can't even imagine. I know losing my mom, and I mean, this is, you know, someone's husband and father. Again, thoughts and prayers go out. So I'm going to move on because I don't want to get deep and like sad and stuff. So the DC fandom's happening right now. There's been some announcements. Wonder Woman 84 had a new trailer. John just watched before we went on.
That's why we're late. Sorry.
It's all his fault. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm one of those jaded people watching where I'm going, I swear, I don't see Kristen Wiig as the damn cheetah, like as full cat. A lot of it, she's wearing a leather jacket and putting on some heavy makeup.
Yeah.
I love Kristen Wiig as an actress or as an actor. And I feel like I really hope that like full Kristen Wiig can come out because she's so absurdly funny. Like she's just got that like weird humor. So I really, really hope that like that gets unleashed. Like that's what I want to see in this.
Well, let's be honest. I think the cheetah as a nemesis to Wonder Woman is absurd. I mean, let's just really think about it. Like cheetah has no power that could potentially match with any one of Wonder Woman's abilities, and then so they're not a really fair matchup. So it's more, can you create a character who is entertaining and draws the attention of the viewer in a way that makes you feel like this is at least an exciting matchup to watch.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's the same as the Lex Luthor Superman thing. The reason it makes it work is because when a good Luthor performance really captures the threat level that could be Luthor, you know?
Also, they introduced James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
I saw a poster, I think.
It is absurd.
Yeah.
But it has King Shark.
I don't know, like I feel like the cast I'm really excited about. I love Pete Davidson. Like I don't know, even if he like dies in the first 5 minutes, I think it'll be a great performance. So I don't know, like I'm more excited about this Suicide Squad than I was the previous one. And I think the biggest reveal for me was Harley Quinn's outfit. Like we're finally seeing that black and red.
A little bit. Nathan Fillion's in it.
A little bit.
I love Nathan Fillion. So I mean, honestly, James Gunn has a much better track record than the guy doing the previous film.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot more faith in what he can do and with the people he surrounds himself with that he feels comfortable with, and his ability to sort of make lovable, unlovable, quirky characters, I think is really a testament. So I mean, I think it's a good fit in concept. Who knows what it'll be in performance.
It's got Polka Dot Man in it.
Yeah.
He really went all out. He found the craziest characters and just went nuts with it. I think.
Peter Capaldi is the Thinker, which is fascinating.
Yeah,
that is an interesting casting. I don't remember hearing that one.
Yeah, that Mongol, the female Mongol is in it.
Yeah.
King Shark is the one. Like Gail Simone was like, "Oh my god, they have him and Savant in this."
Yeah. Well, the King Shark thing, that people were talking about that for a while. I think it's a hilarious decision. And the poster where it's like the giant head is running in the background, you can see it. I love it.
Yeah, and Idris Elba. On the game side, they introduced Gotham Knights.
Okay.
Which it has no Batman in it, but it has Court of Owls. You can play as Red Hood, Batgirl, Robin, or Nightwing.
No Batman. That's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they killed him at the end of Arkham Knight. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. I think that'll be fun though, because I think that, to be quite honest, this is just my personal opinion, is I think that Batman's like overplayed in the Batman universe and like the Gotham universe. I feel like we've seen so many iterations of him And I'm excited to see like those secondary characters. Like I feel like that's why Marvel's kind of hit its spot with like Guardians of the Galaxy and things like that, is because we got to see secondary characters that we could fall in love with instead of seeing the same ones over and over again. But
You can check out D Comic Queen's stories because she recorded herself watching the clips from it, and you just hear her screaming over everything, so you can't hear anything.
She's such a fangirl. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's actually where like I haven't actually like logged on to. And here, sorry, I just have to say this. I would be remiss if I missed this. I struggle saying fandom. Like I keep wanting to say fandom, and like fandom just doesn't roll off. So like I haven't logged on to anything fandom. I've just basically been watching D Comic Queen stories on Instagram. So shout out to her. So I don't have to think about fandom. It just doesn't.
Well, Sydney has just been pictures of Robert Pattinson for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Diving into this week's comics, I don't know about you guys, but I felt a little underwhelmed this week.
I only got 2 new books.
I got less than I wanted, but that's my fault because there was a lot of things there wasn't a lot on my pull list for this week, and I had a long list of things that was not on my pull list that I wanted, and I just didn't get the things not on my pull list this week, so they already sold out or my shop didn't order them, so that's boo on me. But
What is up, Rod?
Rod, so tomorrow.
Yes,
we're doing the darn thing.
Tomorrow, I guess Jen and I will be on your show at 4 p.m. I will try to get sleep and not be a zombie when I come on.
I know, it's so funny because like Rod messaged me and he's like, hey, do you guys think that you could be on the show tomorrow? And I'm like, I'm a definite yes, but let me double check with Dan. And I'm like, I think Dan is probably sleeping right now. So he's going to see this message because I'm like, he works at night. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's going to see this message when he wakes up. And I'm just like, I'm like, what time is it? Okay, I think he may be sleeping, but let me double check. So, yeah.
So I'll let you go first, Jen.
Alrighty. So, I'm just going to go ahead and get this one out of the way. Like Decorum, I feel like has been that hit or miss for me. The first 2 issues were like, what's going on? Issue 3 gave me a lot more, and then I feel like I kind of got a little bit from this issue, but not enough. We definitely did, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe I called it, but I feel like we got the Hickman dump finally. So we finally got the, that's what I lovingly call Jonathan Hickman's style of writing, where he gives us this issue, or the beginning of an issue. It'll be like, okay, here's the backstory. In House of X, Powers of X, it's like, okay, here's the timeline, or here's the family tree of the mutants and stuff like that. So I feel like we finally we're getting some stats and things like that. So we got the Hickman dump where he just info dumps all over us, which thank you. But I feel like this one was kind of weird. I still don't know exactly how I feel about this one.
It switched people again. Like the last one, they focused on the people I like. Now they went to these space witches, and I'm like, okay, like what's going on? Like I can't.
This really makes me wish that Jonathan Hickman was writing Dune. Why do you laugh at me? That's totally accurate.
Because I'm just picturing Dune. Page upon page of text.
Please.
Like, someone opening the comic going, is this a book? Like, where's the pictures?
Right.
That's true. You would need to.
But that's Hickman's style. I mean, he always has an excessive amount of literature in his books, and I think it's nice to have that as an alternative. If you're into it, if you enjoy that style, you can get really deep into his worlds.
Yeah, especially if even if he did like a spin-off of a Dune comic book and did Princess what's her face, her this is the year whatever, and I just
Irulan.
Princess Irulan. Yeah, thank you.
All I had were my books.
I could see him kind of writing that really well. Could you imagine if he did the writing and then we got Stephanie Hans to do the artwork there? Come on. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I would also take Bill Sienkiewicz again.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, Han's like, it's just basically like, give me a die set in Dune.
Thank you.
I would also take the beauty artist, Jeremy Hahn.
Jeremy Hahn. Yeah. Yep. Definitely see that.
Oh,
anyway,
Black Monday Murders. That is the info dump of all info dumps.
and
Or
speaking
book of the
which,
month for September.
it's going to be book of the month for next month for September. It's going to be good. I wonder if so I have this habit of I've read a book and then I reread it and I fucking hate it. So I'm like, I don't want to curse it now, but I have a feeling. No, I'm just kidding. I do love Black Monday Murders. So who knows? We'll see. So anyways, with Decorum, I would probably out of 10, I want to give it like a 6.5, 7, which is actually shockingly low for me. But keep in mind, it's all made up and the points don't matter.
I don't know who I'm supposed to follow at this point because every other issue they keep jumping who we're supposed to be following, and
it's a limited series, so
what?
It's like this is only out of 10 or something like that.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Shit. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
let me.
Fuck. Okay.
You're welcome.
John, you can go while she's looking up.
I only got 2 books this week.
That's fine.
Getting way back. I've been basically a Boom Studios Marvel guy lately. Those have been kind of where I get most of my books. And so I got one of each. I went with Once and Future. I've just been loving that. I think it's great. And the moment when they brought Simon Pegg and Nick Frost into the universe, I died. I was like, come on. This is amazing. I took pictures of the whole page. I was like, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but this is like one of the great pop culture mashup moments for me was Once and Future and Hot Fuzz getting blended together for a page and a half. Was like, oh, I love this.
That is one of those books when it was first coming out. I only picked up because Kieran Gillen was in it, and then I'm like, okay, this reminds me of that librarian show kind of that's on TNT a little bit.
I tried to get into that show, and I feel like it would be right up my alley. Couldn't get into it. But I struggle with most TV shows because it's not aggressively weird enough for me. I do have a quick.
The relationship between the grandma and the son.
Oh yeah,
the future is just so great, and grandma's always. I mean, this was great. She was like having dinner with her little seniors friends there in the house there, and then they get attacked by Grendel from Beowulf, and they're like, grandma's trying to keep the seniors from getting killed, and the son's rushing over there and they're calling the cops. The whole thing was just a bit of a hysterical romp for me.
Weirdly, I kept picturing the grandmother being who was it in Red? That would be Red.
Helen Mirren?
Yes.
Helen Mirren, yep.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people jokingly say that it's got to be, if you could make Betty White do a British accent, it's Betty White.
Ooh.
Or Diana Rigg, the from Game of Thrones, her character, the Queen of Thorns.
I could totally Diana Rigg in anything. I love Diana Rigg.
Oh, 100%. She has aged great. Especially just her saltiness.
G-MILF? Whenever you were great, I was like, okay, G-MILF.
Well, what age is she now? Her and Helen Mirren have both
she's 82. I just looked at that.
Yeah, she is for her age, she looks. I mean, not the original Wonder Woman, who I don't know if she's aged. She looks almost exactly the same.
Linda Carter, yeah.
Yes. I have an odd pick for mine because I usually don't have a lot of Marvel books. Cable is a book I'm weirdly enjoying.
Yep.
I know you mentioned it last time. I went through my shop to see if I could get issues 1 and 2 to go with issue 3, and they didn't have them, so I was like, you know what? I'll just read it later.
Yeah.
I didn't get to pick up issue number 3.
In the pool, by the way, if you can hear them, that's my daughter's in the pool outside.
No worries at all. I have been loving Cable, and that was one of the titles that I did not put on my pull list, and I disappointingly did not get issue 3 this week. And it's been pretty good. I never thought that I would like this, but
I'm not a huge fan of Jerry Duggan's writing normally.
Mm-hmm.
it's been subdued, which is good for him. And then Phil Noto, his art, like I love it. And then you throw in Space Knights from ROM.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. Like, I love the old ROM series.
Yeah.
Even some of the new stuff from IDW, but still not the same ROM to me.
Wasn't Jerry Duggan writing X-Force too before this, right?
I think the last run of X-Force he did.
The first portion, right?
Yeah, Ben Percy is doing it now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Cable's just been fun, especially like the Cuckoo Sisters are kind of got some plan for him. You don't really know what, so they're kind of romancing him.
Yeah, which is kind of weird. I mean, I haven't read issue 3, so I don't know what it's been, but I don't know. There's a lot of fun new stuff going on. Like, I just imagine the vaccine stuff that we don't get.
Deadpool's the king of Staten Island in it, which is weird that he's basically Pete Davidson now. It's a solid 7 out of 10 for me. Sliding scale. I don't know what my scale is. I just know it was good enough to entertain me, but it wasn't something that I'm like, this is a must read for everyone and anyone. Jen, you're next.
So I want to go ahead and before I do my next pick, I just want to reveal that Decorum, it is a limited series and it's out of 8 issues. So right now this last one was 4, so it's going to be 4 out of 8. So like, which is 100% shocking to me, considering that when we read issues 1 and 2, it was like I could have just not done with issues 1 and 2 and kind of jumped to issue 3, or they could have been condensed, which is really surprising because you would think out of a limited series out of 8. But I'm still along for the ride. I'm a huge Hickman fan person, so I'm just going to buy anything like Hickman. Just dump all over us, please and thank you.
Phrasing.
Yeah, 100%. So. Sorry, I'm trying to like interact with the chat and like my next pick for the week is going to be Empire X-Men. I really thought that I was going to be able to stay away from the whole like tie-ins, and there's just so many titles, but this one actually it did it for me. I've seriously been enjoying it. Once again, like, because Hickman's a part of it, we get to see basically what had happened was zombie mutants, and I've just been really digging it, and I really love Ilyana Rasputin.
Oh, Magic is my fave.
Yeah, and so to see her, like, I don't know, go like zombie master, I love it. I thought that this was really good, but I feel like it's going to make me just pick up all the other ones, which I probably will.
You don't need to. You don't.
I probably will. I let my money tell me what it's going to spend itself on. I apparently have no control. So I really liked this series. It's just a limited 4-run series, but then of course you've got all the main ones. And what was it that came out this week? Maestro. I didn't get a chance to pick that up, so I don't even know if that's like a tie-in technically or not.
No, Maestro is just a Hulk.
Okay, cool. So anyways, I actually really enjoyed this Empire X-Men.
It's been the best of the tie-ins.
I agree. I've really enjoyed it. I would give it a solid like 9 out of 10. And even though I have all the single issues, I'm probably going to also pick up the trade, whatever format it comes out on. It's probably going to be like $17.99 for these 4 issues, but whatever. My money tells me how to spend it.
I forgot to say, I would have given, I think, Once and Future probably a 9 out of 10. I think it's just, I mean, it wasn't like the best issue they've done, but it was, I mean, that Simon Pegg alone deserves a 9 out of 10. You put Simon Pegg in SWAT gear in your comic book, I'm probably going to give you a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and he's a like really big comic fan too. If you ever watched Spaced, like that's such a good show, and I feel like it's so underrated when it comes to British humor. So anyone who loves the like modern Simon Pegg stuff, I highly recommend going back and watching Spaced, because I watched it like a month ago and it's aged really well. It's not like one of those shows where you're like, I'm clearly watching something from like the 90s or early 2000s. It's really good. Go watch Spaced if you like Simon
I
Pegg.
remember. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm glad to hear that it's aged well.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of movies that have not aged well, so that's nice.
Especially when it comes to things that came out in that like late 90s, early 2000s. You're like, this is weird. Weird time travel. I don't like it. I don't feel nostalgic for it at all, but I love Spaced.
Nice. Yeah, the only other book I bought was Jane Foster Valkyrie. It's the final issue in that run. And I will say it went out with a fizz and not a bang. It seems like they took what was going to be 12 issues and decided let's just publish the 10th and be done with it. And it just seemed kind of slapped together, and it was not a fitting end to what I thought was a very promising story.
I like that they gave her own identity finally.
Right? And I loved, the story with Heimdall that they started with and saying goodbye to Heimdall. That was very powerful stuff. I really enjoyed it. Some of the comedy with her Thor and the talking horse. There were some really funny bits in there. But yeah, it just did not end as well as the series started. So I would probably give it a 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. It was disappointing, but it didn't ruin the whole thing for me.
I've had that a lot lately with books where like I stay till the end and then the end comes. I'm just like, is that it? Like Paper Girls was the one I keep going back to that like started so strong, and by the time it ended, I was just like, It
I haven't gotten to the end of Paper Girls yet, so that's a disappointment to hear.
She had a different experience with it.
I did, but I kind of understand, because I read it like throughout. And then I read all 6 volumes for my like month of reading 100 comics, graphic novels. And I feel like when it was read all together, like I understand, like, because it was fast. I literally read the whole series within 2 days. So that was like pretty fast. But I felt like I enjoyed it more. So one question, John, when so you'd rate this last issue, you said like 6.5, 7. What would you rate the whole series?
Maybe like an 8.5. There were issues. The issue when they finally said goodbye to Heimdall was a 10 out of 10. That was one of the best. I don't even want to call it a death because he kind of had already died. She was just escorting his soul.
Yeah,
I thought it was a beautiful, epilogue to the War of Realms stuff that Jason Aaron had done. I love the battles with guys like Bullseye was a great fight with Bullseye. I love the talking horse. I love the stuff with Thor. So in general, it was very, very good.
Got it.
I'd like to give myself a pat on the back because I didn't get Gideon Falls to hate read for the first month ever.
I'm rolling my eyes. Like, I don't know, like if you can see me rolling my eyes, but I'm rolling them.
I can feel it through the interweb. So my weird relationship with Batman continues. This latest issue came out. I can only describe it as a quarter of it, Batman's tripping balls on like whatever like ayahuasca or whatever Harley gave him to get him off the fear toxin. Punchline finally in an issue didn't do the "you're the joke, I'm a punchline" bit.
Oh man, I'm actually disappointed about that.
And we saw a little bit more of Clown Hunter, which should have been in the last issue, where he just showed up for a page like, "Hi guys, I'm here. You heard about me, right?" And very like treading water issue. Like again, where I just feel like it's going nowhere. Like they just kind of put those like swim floaties on and then put it in the pool and just let them float. So yeah, like 5 or 6 out of 10. Just it's there. Didn't move the needle, as the CG people say.
Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, I think this is like going to be one of those ones where just buy it as a trade.
The whole Tinian run or Tynan run, you mean?
Yeah. Bearded Color, like I get sleeping on a little bit, like, but we're not seeing what he's doing. Like, he just kind of shows up for a panel or a page or two, which, I mean, it could be in the long run. That 1 in 25 from 2 weeks ago probably is going to be the one to get if he ends up rising, because it feels like every 3 issues they're introducing someone. The Ghost Maker's the next one, which, not going to lie, that's a terrible name. Jen, next.
So my last pick for this week, I've been loving this series, and it's really hard for me to really love a DC series right now. However, that being said, Wonder Woman Dead Earth, this was a limited series of 4 and kind of finishes everything that's going out. I like, not just do I want to talk about this, I keep wanting to say episode, this issue. So not just about this issue, but the entire series, I feel like, has just been so good. I can't wait to go back and to read this as a trade. Like, I hope that they do a really good, like, trade or whatever for this. I don't know if that's, there's a plan for that. But I really, really, really loved Wonder Woman Dead Earth on their Black Label, which apparently, like, the Black Label is no more. So rest in peace to more homies. But man, I feel like this was the Wonder Woman that I really needed. It's so weird, and
people have been telling me that it's amazing.
It's going to be a good trade if they put it out in a hardcover. Like, I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I have not a hard time, but I do love these because I think the big format is something that's fun and interesting, but I have a conflicting feeling about it because I'm like, well, shit, I don't have, like, magazine bags and boards, and I don't feel like going and spending. I have all of, like, 10 that I need to get bagged and boarded, so I don't know. Anyways, that's not the point here. I rate this series like seriously, like 9.5 out of 10. I really, really loved Wonder Woman Dead Earth.
Yeah, I got to get around to reading that at some point.
Yeah.
Is there any book we might be sleeping on, John, that you're reading that you might want to recommend to people?
I mean, I always feel like I love the only DC books that nobody else likes. So, like, I was reading Lois Lane start to finish.
Greg Rucka made me buy it. Like, his
Rucka was
fantastic.
on fire. That whole run I thought was great. And I've been enjoying the Black Label Last God.
Love it.
ASE. Love it. I mean, it's the best. I love Stephanie Hans and Dive, but I still think Last God might be the best drawn comic book.
Last God is one of the books where you look on the cover. What you see on the cover is what you're getting in the interiors. Federici's art is fantastic. Philip Kennedy Johnson building this. The way I always describe it, like my elevator pitch is, did you like Lord of the Rings? Would you like it if the Fellowship lied and said they destroyed the god and then came back and celebrated that they did? And, well, they failed.
Yep. It's a beautiful, like, gruesome world, and they do a great job of capturing it. So those were my 2 favorite DC titles. Now Lois Lane's all done, and I don't know how long. With the Black Label ending and DC all over the place, I'm not sure how long Last God will go, but I've been enjoying both of those.
Is it 100% that Black Label's done, or I've heard rumor, but no one's
I think it's all rumor. It's all rumor for
Okay.
right now, but it changes, like, constantly.
Yeah, I know Jim Lee's speech he gave, or that interview about the status of AT&T publishing books. It sounded like a lot of corporate spin. I expect full well that if there's not a relaunch with a very, very slimmed down line, there's just going to be massive cuts to books where it's either going to be all digital
Or
the
trades.
best-selling ones. Trades, which
To me, like, I think the thing that like cuts at my heart when I think about trades, like I'll read trades, and I read a lot of them during quarantine when I didn't have access to single issues, but to me, like, that cuts deep because it cuts right into local comic book stores. Like, you can get a trade on Amazon, and you can get a trade at your local, like, big chain bookstore, but ultimately single issues, you get those from your local comic book store. So the fewer of those that are being produced, less you're going to go to your shop.
if I were the shops, I would like literally when they have those DC summits, if they are going to move that way, I would fight tooth and nail to say it has to be an exclusive in the shops for at least 6 months before
Yeah.
the big chains can get a hold of them. That's how it has to be.
Well, and it was just before the crisis, I was hearing about a bunch of shops that were going to stop running indies. And now I'm like, what are you going to run in your shop now? Just Marvel? If this all just goes to heck, like, are you just going to run Marvel in your shop? That's it?
I feel like indies speak to a much wider audience as well. So to me, saying, well, we're going to cut indies, even though I get it from a local comic shop standpoint, you take the risk on investing in an indie comic book, hoping that your customers are going to come in for it. But at the same time, I'm like, you are shutting out a whole bunch of people who don't see themselves in comic books. Like, I think that there's so much more diversity in publishers like Image and some of the other smaller publishers like Vault and Scout. You see so much more diversity. And if you say, well, we're not going to carry those anymore, you're basically saying we don't care about diverse stories, which is a thing in the comic book industry. But
I honestly wouldn't be surprised, though, as these DC exclusive contracts are up, you're just going to see an influx of people going to like Boom or Image with their own properties then to,
yeah.
And I think it's going to be like a large like exodus.
Yeah.
And Marvel's going to have to cut their line down at some point. Like, we don't need as many books as they're publishing. Or
I think the onus falls on a shop owner to really create the interest in those things too. Because I mean, the reason, and we can talk when we get to Vertigo, I'm sure we'll get into it, but like the only reason I read all these was because my LCS pushes indies and pushes alternative storylines and books. And he was always saying, oh, hey, there's this new Boom Studios or there's this new Scout book. And he's like, you should check this out, check that out. He was never just towing the DC Marvel line.
Yep.
Especially like Jen and I always talk about, we have kind of superhero fatigue where these indie books now kind of speak more to what we're into, and they're more creative stories in general. Like, I think more leeway.
And even when they do superheroes, it's more creative. Like, I know when we talked about Black Hammer, like Black Hammer is a superhero story, but we're not necessarily getting it all about like, oh, here's a superhero and here's the supervillain and they're going to fight over Metropolis and this and that. But in Black Hammer, we're getting this like really weird story, and we can really delve into the psychology of superheroes, which, speaking of Vertigo, when I think about like Watchmen doing that, like I miss that high that I got from Watchmen. Like, oh, this is superheroes, but they're so fucked up. Like, so I miss that.
I got that from Powers too when I first started reading Powers
Image,
and I was like, damn. There's like, I mean, obviously Boys and Umbrella Academy have gone down similar routes, but when I read some of the crazy crap in Powers, I was just like, okay, superheroes are just as messed up as anybody.
The Authority was like that for me. Like when I first read it, going, okay, like this is different. So on my last pick, I'm getting ready for Jen's eyes to like Eye of Sauron on me here in a minute. Low issue 24.
I saw the eye roll clear on that one.
Yeah. So
I had to.
I can already tell I'm going to hate the ending of the series.
Well, at least it's consistent. I hated the whole. Go on. This is your pick.
This issue was like nonsense.
Oh, really?
So shut up. It's a 6. I can already tell where it's going, and I'm not loving it. And I know, like, I already know the end's gonna happen. I'm just gonna be like, okay, well, done. So yeah, stop it, Jen.
It actually, I know that I roll my eyes, but it's actually so refreshing to hear you say that, because like you know my more current feelings about Low, where I'm just so I hated rereading that, and that love-hate feeling with Rick Remender has turned more into hate, and like Greg Ticini, like his artwork just doesn't do it for me anymore. And
so basically you're just like the Emperor now. Good.
Yeah, pretty let the hate flow. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, sorry. But okay, sorry if I can interject. Apparently on Instagram, because oh my goodness, like 3 or 4 people messaged me about this, and they were like, because was it Image? Whoever posted it was basically like, buy the Low Volume 1 hardcover, and if you don't like it, get your money back. And I'm like, can I get my money back on like 20? I think I stopped at like 24. Can I get my money back on like 24 issues of Low? Please?
Only on the hardcover. Only on the hardcover.
Man.
Man, your hate is like so extreme. Like,
Yeah.
you give me shit about Tom King, but like you are like, okay, you haven't been blocked by Rick Remender, so you have that.
Yet.
I've been.
So
wait, there's Tom King hate.
We got there.
Honestly,
Yep.
I liked Tom King's Batman right up till right after the wedding. It just kind of derailed for me. But like, I think his run is way underrated, and Scott Snyder's is way overrated.
It's
Dan, what did you think?
Well, I compared it to being like Seinfeld. It's a book about nothing.
There you go.
Literally, they started storylines. They just dropped them randomly. There's a part with him riding in the desert with his dead mom's body. We don't figure out what happened. They just drop it. They never pick it back up. They undid everything I loved about Josh Williamson writing the Button, the part where he meets Thomas Wayne, and he has that really like charming moment where like it hit me in the feels, and then Tom King's like, "Ooh, that was too good. Let me fucking destroy it. You know those good feelings you had? Get rid of them all." I think he's a good writer on other books. Like I really enjoyed Vision. I like Mr. Miracle. Sheriff of Babylon's good. Even that strange he did.
I'm liking the Strange Adventures so far.
It's a different take. I mean, I know Nat was like, it's more of the same. It's just more of the same. Where I think the twist with Alana, where she's pretty damn devious.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice twist. It's just his Batman, like, and Heroes in Crisis. There's a whole hour and a half Nat and I did of just like railing on that book.
I did a comic book courtroom with some.
Oh, I know. She after we finished that stream we did, she jumped on that and she's like, watch along, and I was like, sitting there screaming at my iPad, going, no.
Apparently, I'm a better lawyer than I am comic book picker. So.
Oh, I was like messaging, go, you got set up, Nat. You got set up. They sucker punched you.
No, it's just Jason's not as good a lawyer as I am, clearly.
Rod Vision was fantastic, especially that issue with him and Wanda.
All of them, I felt like it was just a really great story, really well thought out. And again, the Mr. Miracle stuff, I was just blown away by.
He's great with characters that you don't get a lot of time. Like Vision was a character, he appears in the books, but you never really go into his character much. Right. Mr. Miracle was another one. You don't do those deep stories with him, so it was refreshing. Batman, it's just like everybody's tried that deconstruction. Scott Snyder rode that Court of Owls story for as long as it could go.
Oh man. I think he derailed at the end. I mean, Year Zero is a mess.
Zero
year.
Endgame was a mess.
Yeah.
Death of the Family was a mess. He's Stephen King. He idolizes Stephen King. He can't land a fucking ending.
Right.
Like, just can't. The only thing that like saves it unlike in
we've set up Dan, and now Dan's running on Batman.
Unlike the end of it, where he has a gangbang to get them out of the sewer. Luckily, Scott hasn't done that.
I'm really glad that I didn't have
Save
to
it.
set this up, that it just came naturally, because I get like, whenever Mars came on the show, I was
You
like,
set that up.
Mars loves Tom King and is apparently besties with him, and I'm like, this is going to be a fun episode, and I had to step away for like literally 30 seconds, came back, and it derailed into a Tom King knockout. So this is how I get entertainment through the week. This is what I look forward to. I don't know. The same way that I have feelings about like Rick Remender's relationship with maybe his partner and how that comes across in the comic books, I feel like I have a same theory with Tom King and his relationship with his partner. Like, I just imagine they have boring conversation during sex. Like, I don't know.
We're talking about the weather. Hey, do you
Talking
want
about-
waffles?
Yeah.
Hold on.
I feel like if you're having an in-depth conversation, you're doing something wrong.
You want some wet ass pancakes?
Yeah, wet ass pancakes. Yep. So I don't know. I feel like, because there's like moments that I do enjoy, like the conversation between Miracle Man and Big Barda. Big Barda's like one of my favorites. But there's these moments where the two are like fighting, and they're like, oh, let's go ahead and redo the kitchen or redo the house. If we knock out this wall, we can do it. And I'm like, is this the conversation that normal people have during sex? I don't get it. Sorry, I went there.
I love it.
But
I mean, you're probably just wanting them to go, what's your safe word?
yes,
Probably.
You start with it. That's early on. You get to
Yeah.
that early.
100%. Like, it's,
Well, he's an escape artist, so you know.
and Big Barda could probably just like kick
Fold
the
him in
shit
half.
out of him
Yeah,
in like such a fun way. But whatever.
I love Big Barda.
That's another episode. That's going to be on my OnlyFans, where I post fully nude pictures of a big blue Dr. Manhattan, uncensored.
Manhattan gone wild.
Yeah. Yep.
Just
That
him
and
at
Alan
spring
Moore.
break.
Spring.
Did you post that Alan Moore picture? The WAP? Was that you?
It was the video. It was
Oh,
the video of like an older man like doing the dance to WAP, and I'm like, I bet this is Alan Moore's jam. Like, this is him dancing to WAP. So you're welcome.
Oh, and also, since we're talking about Vertigo, I bought this big bastard the other day.
Yeah.
The
What was that, like
omnibus.
70 something?
It was about 90 altogether.
90. Got it.
It was
I was
125 FRP.
And here I was crapping on Steve Dillon's artwork this morning.
Yeah, I saw that, and it was beautiful. But
Steve Dillon's one of those people, like I said, like his art, even though it's not pretty, it moves the story along rather well for the most part. I've come to appreciate that. We had this weird conversation about Lock and Key when we did the episode on that, where Jen and Cinia did not like Gabriel Rodriguez's art.
Okay.
Where I compared it to Steve Dillon a bit, except his doesn't move the story along quite as well.
I have feelings because initially, here's the, I don't know, hot take, whatever. So whenever I heard that the artist for Lock and Key was going to do a Lock and Key Sandman crossover, I wanted to vomit, because the artwork to me I didn't love the artwork in Lock and Key, and Sandman's one of my faves, and like, I just have feelings about that. However, I did see the cover today or yesterday for the crossover, and I'm like, okay, the cover doesn't look too bad. My dumbass is still going to buy it, even though I'm going to read it. Whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
That's just my...
I've only read the first trade of Preacher and his Punisher 12-issue run, so that's my only real Steve Dillon exposure.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, I was there for Garth Ennis's writing, which,
Yeah.
I mean, irreverent and, well, real irreverent. Doesn't age well in some aspects, but some aspects, the story changed for me after reading it again years later, where I realized, someone else in the book's actually the true villain of the book.
Yeah.
You have to get through it all to, like, get to it and realize it. but book has like, it's one of those books that like has sentimental value to me because it's, I think, got me back into Vertigo, because I went through stages of I wasn't reading Vertigo, then I was reading Vertigo, and there's always like a series that keeps bringing me back every couple of years. So now that we've segued into that, let's start talking about it. I can't talk about Vertigo without talking about the mother of Vertigo, and that would be Karen Berger.
Yep.
Where TJ mentioned her in the chat earlier.
Mm-hmm.
DC started having these properties that were getting very adult, and they didn't want to deal with the comic code. And so they made this line that was just going direct market. And it was for, I forget what age and up. It might have been 16 and up. I can't remember at the time. But it was mature readers. I don't know if we want to consider it the first Vertigo book, but Swamp Thing, technically, I guess you could call the grandfather of it. I remember weirdly the Swamp Thing movie, that horrible movie got me into Swamp Thing as a kid. I'm just really interested in it. And then years later, I was like, oh, that stupid movie. And I started reading the book, and I'm like, oh, Alan Moore is telling a love story between a plant and a woman, or a plant that thinks it's a man, which we find out it's actually a god. A lot of stuff spawned out of Swamp Thing that became big staples of Vertigo. Hellblazer, John Constantine.
One thing that I recently found out, maybe this is something that like I missed along the way, but apparently John Constantine has a Swamp Thing tattoo on his ass, and it's from whenever Swamp Thing used Constantine to do some boning.
Yes.
Yeah.
To have teeth.
So that is like one of my favorite little nuggets of knowledge, is that John Constantine has a Swamp Thing tramp stamp. Swamp Thing tramp stamp.
A swamp stamp?
Swamp stamp, yeah. Yep.
So what was everybody's like first Vertigo book that you bought or like really got on your radar?
Sorry, my light's reflecting. For me, it's Sandman. I love it so much. But
I was just like you, Dan. I was away from collecting, and when I came back, my LCS was the shop I was trying out as an LCS. One of the first things they said was, "You got to try some of these Vertigo books," and they hit me with like what I would consider to be like the second generation of Vertigo, which was 100 Bullets, Fables, and Why the Last Man. Those were like the three that like I just started reading the trades right then and there. I got like 2 of each, and then before long I'd read all the trades and was getting the issues. I think all of them were right around issue 30 somewhere.
Yeah.
Started reading them.
I was real late on Sandman. I just remember like The Crow was a big deal, and all of a sudden I started seeing Sandman and Death in stores, and I'm like, okay, the goth stuff's starting to come up.
Right.
Yeah.
I the only Sandman that I've really read is the High Cost of Living story for Death.
Yeah.
Which I only did because my partner for book club, White Whale Comics, is like obsessed, like Jennifer, with Sandman and that whole universe. And I told him I'd never read it, and he's like, "Well, this is a 3-issue miniseries. We should just read it." And I bought the issues because they were actually cheaper to get the issues than to get the trade.
I wore, it's like a knockoff, but I wore my Death shirt because she's my favorite. I really need to get more.
I would have my first appearance of Death comic, but it's getting pressed and cleaned right now.
Oh man, that's like, someone recently asked me if like I had one what would be the one comic like grail that I would get, and for me, like I already have Saga issue 1 and that whole run, but Death's first appearance is like, that's the one that I don't know why I don't have it. So
First Alan Moore Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Ooh. See, I've never read Swamp Thing. That would be like, I've got several Vertigo like gaps, and it's most of Generation 1, right? Like I've never read any of the Hellblazer really. I read one story, I think.
Yeah.
Never read Sandman, never read, I only read the first trade of Preacher, never read Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing is almost like gothic horror at times, the early run of it. But Alan Moore, just by the time he really gets it going, it's fascinating. Like it's one of the greatest love stories probably written in a book or a comic.
100%. And to me, I think that this was also a transition in the artwork too, like the way that the artwork style in comics was going. Like, I don't know. I love me some Swamp Thing. It's so beautiful. It's heartbreaking.
Trinidad, as for the old Vertigo stuff, figure out what genre you're looking for to dive into. Like if you really want like weird literature, Sandman's probably going to be the one for you. If you want almost superhero but horror elements, Swamp Thing. If you want vast conspiracy and like assassins, 100 Bullets would be a great one for you to dive into. If you want really fucked up weird shit, Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol or Animal Man or The Invisibles.
Yep. Especially The Invisibles. Like that's like I went back and read that at the start of quarantine and it's just weird. But that's, you know, Grant Morrison and, you know,
and
Wizard.
Also, I that's weird that now I have trouble talking about this. It's still bothering me. Warren Ellis's Transmetropolitan. It's a weird look at media. Yes, you have to divorce the stories you've heard about him, which every time I look at my planetary books, it's the first thing that comes to my mind. I don't want to think about what a Bluebeard is, but I know it now, and I can't get rid of that.
I have a really, like, because Transmetropolitan was one of the books that I read when I first got into, like, Sandman and Fables and Why the Last Man, and it's sitting in a weird place on my shelf. So Morrison's Doom Patrol.
So Grant Morrison did a complete issue goofing on Rob Liefeld, where like everybody had like a million pouches, and every character that shows up to it had a trademark symbol next to it. It was really fascinating. And of course, in Animal Man, where they had Animal Man meet Grant Morrison in the book to meet his creator, asking him why he did all this horrible stuff to him. I'm not going to say that Grant Morrison was doing shrooms or other psychedelics during the time, because if you watch his documentary, he 100% will tell you what he was doing during those times.
And one of the things that I loved about the documentary was that he said something about how he would write something about the character and it would happen to him. Like there was a character that got extremely sick and had like lesions all over his body, and then I forget what he did. Either he like prayed or like did, I don't know, whatever weird magic he does. And then he was unafflicted anymore.
I still like the one artist talking about how he knocked on his door at the hotel and the door opened by itself and he walked up nude with just a robe on saying, "I've had a breakthrough." And walked away and they said the door closed by itself.
That sounds very Grant Morrison-y.
It's on YouTube, the documentary. It is fascinating. It's talking with gods. He's a very interesting fellow where you walk away going, I can't tell if he's cocky or just fucking weird.
It's both. I think that he's allowed to be a little bit of both, especially because like he was 16, 17 when he started doing work for in comics and just, you know, kind of exploded from there. So
he also talked about it on Kevin Smith's podcast, how like real cocky, he sent some drawings of Conan to Marvel and said, I'm ready whenever Barry Windsor Smith's ready to leave the book and let a real artist come on. Like sent them that.
I feel like a lot of the writers and artists over there at Vertigo in the early days were off the wagon. They were just out there in the woods doing their own thing. I mean, your Alan Moores, you guys mentioned Ennis and Ellis, and Brian Azzarello is just a wacky nut. And Brian K. Vaughan might be the most normal person to come out of Vertigo.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah. Brian K. Vaughan. I forgot that he wrote for Vertigo. Like,
Why the Last Man is my jam.
And then Pride of Baghdad too, I think is.
I have some hot takes on Why the Last Man.
Ooh,
I thought it was terribly overrated.
really?
It started well, and then it middled. I just felt like the story kept repeating itself, where it was like the same scenario over and over and over. But I thought it ended well.
See, I don't even think that I caught the ending. I think that I've just read like the first 2, 3.
I love that
And then
final.
they went back.
The final issue. I think, is
No, the final
amazing.
issue was a beautiful ending. It ended great. It's
Yeah.
just that middle of it where I was just like, redundant. Like it's the same thing. It's a man. Let's take him captive. He gets loose.
Yeah,
It's
he
a
gets
man.
captured. He gets captured about as much as Jack Bauer's daughter.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot of capture and rescue but I
Very
love
much.
the way that they peeled the layers of the characters, like the agent who's protecting him and the doctor who's trying to figure it out. I like the way that we slow burn their backstories.
Mhm.
That was I thought that was a fun design to that comic. But for me, like if I don't know, if I had to pick one, it would probably be Fables. I think Fables is probably my favorite, just because every trade seemed to get more interesting. I mean, I throw out all the spin-offs, all the
I love
Fairness
Fables.
and Jack.
I hated Once Upon a Time. Like I watched that show thinking, oh, it's gonna be Fables. Like because I remember ABC was looking at getting Fables, and they're like, they just stole it, and we're like,
No, they were like, it's cheaper to do this, so they didn't buy it. I love Fables, and I mean, I've got both of the first issues I've been lucky enough to snag, both covers. I just think it's absolutely a masterpiece, and again, it keeps getting better every time. I feel like I was really enjoying it. I'd get a new trade, and oh my gosh, now Boy Blue is the star, or now Flycatcher's the star, and he's doing an amazing story. There were only a few trades. I mean, the big Fables crossover I did not care for, but most of it I felt like was just a masterclass.
I feel like in the same way that we've gotten this like superhero burnout, I think because a lot of these characters, they're like public domain. So
Right.
you can almost like, I don't know, like do anything with like Snow White or whatever. But it's one of those where we get this different story about characters that we already know. So it's almost like you're bought into the characters, and the fact that like Prince Charming is a piece of shit, but he kind of gets away with everything. Like I loved that.
His arc is beautiful. I mean, the shitbird that he is at the beginning of that run, he continues to have a little streak of that all the way along. But you realize he has many talents, and you watch him through his journey. I think he's a fascinating character, just like Flycatcher or Boy Blue.
Just kind of like Jaime Lannister, like that almost like gives me like Jaime Lannister. I mean, granted, like everyone in Game of Thrones is kind of a piece of shit. And that's what I loved about the series.
And I think it's the same with Fables. Everybody in Fables is a shit. Like there's no like good heart. Even like Snow has some really dark chapters in her backstory. I love that everybody's just a complete like relatable human, and that they have giant flaws. Nobody is like a hero. There's no Captain America.
Yeah.
oh yes. I wanted Prince Robot, same bucket.
Ooh, yep.
I'd be remiss also on later titles from Vertigo that came before the closing. Clean Room by Gail Simone.
It's so funny because I brought that with me. I have that right here. I freaking loved Clean Room.
Man, I gotta start writing these down.
This was so good. That psychological horror. Man, this was intense. I really loved. Thank you for bringing that up. Because if you weren't, I was going to. Clean Room is so damn good.
Coffin Hill by Caitlin Kittredge, if you like some witchy horror.
Oh, I forgot that
really
was Vertigo.
Yep.
Obviously, like early on, I loved V for Vendetta as an amazing.
Oh yeah.
Saga. Like that's just a great storyline. Beautiful.
But another one that brought me back to Vertigo. When I started getting into Scott Snyder during Court of Owls, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he does a lot of horror books. American Vampire has been very good. There was another Vertigo one by him, and I can't remember.
Another one that I feel like I keep forgetting is Vertigo, and I really enjoy it, Sweet Tooth. I feel like this filled a weird hole from Walking Dead. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why I want to relate it to Walking Dead, but Sweet Tooth was, I really enjoyed it. Another like more recent Vertigo title.
But I will recommend 100 Bullets. Like, seriously, like, even though Brian Azzarello is kind of a weird dude, like, it's such a great conspiracy book. Mm-hmm. Especially when you find out what the great crime was that was committed.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, 100 Bullets would be probably my second favorite. I just think, and talk about, I think it ended really, really well. I think it's a comic that rips your heart out. Like, there were several characters. I still think the story arc of Wily Times is one of my all-time favorites. Yes. The way they, like, I love that they introduce him and they try to give him the briefcase, and he's like, nah, I don't want it. I don't care. He's like one of the, everybody up to then is like, do I use the gun? Do I not use the gun? And he's like, I don't give a crap. I don't want this case. I don't want it. Like, I don't give a crap. And then he gets into his, I think it's the 8th trade when he's in New Orleans. And that is one of the most messed up stories. It's just so, the guy gets his face in the bear trap. And it's just like, that story is messed up. I love it. And then, of course, through getting his memory back and ending up with the crew. And then, the end of his story. I think Wily Times is awesome. I love it. And, of course, Dizzy Cordova. Like, Dizzy's a badass.
The one issue, it was like a little one-off where Agent Graves was visiting someone in the hospital, and he starts talking about basically it's Ted Williams and how
the baseball, yeah,
and they're basically talking about Marilyn Monroe and JFK in it.
Right.
That he offered him the case to kill them.
Yep.
I thought that was a great little one-shot issue.
Yeah, they do. It was a comic that defied like explaining, because every time you felt like you understood what was going on, they would do a storyline and it would reveal a whole new layer. And then like once they started realizing that there was like memories that these characters couldn't access, that there was this whole sub like this whole like other layer to the story got peeled back, and it was just a masterpiece. I love it.
It was like a side quest.
Right. It seemed like it was just this like Twilight Zone sort of thing, where it was like individual stories, and there's no real Graves and Shepard show up, but like every comic's its new thing, and you don't need to worry about it. And then all of a sudden there was this layer deeper where there's a root system to just show you that these are not separate animals, they're all connected. It was cool.
We also had from Vertigo Books of Magic, which Tim Hunter is basically pre-Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a couple of those. I didn't really care for them, but I don't know that maybe I didn't read the right ones.
It's one of those ones, it can be ponderous. Like, it just kind of goes on and on. Like, there's certain runs of it that are really good. There's some that are really bad. iZombie, if you like that show, that was a Vertigo book.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. I forgot. Yeah. Once again, I completely forgot that was Vertigo.
Huh.
One I really liked, and I even kind of like the movie, The Losers, by Andy Diggle and Jock. Speaking of Andy Diggle, I think it was you, John, who posted about, or someone posted about, he made a post about the girl who writes
Raina Telgemeier.
Raina Telgemeier.
Yep.
Actually, it was Jennifer that posted it first.
Okay.
And then I copied Jennifer.
So gotta take all the credit for that. I'm just kidding. Someone else posted about it, but yeah.
The thing, like, I worked at a bookstore for 20 years. That book sold so much, and I always had that like thing in my head going, they keep saying kids don't want comic books anymore. Yet this is a comic book, and Marvel kind of tried that with Runaways and a couple other books where they put them in that like almost manga format. Mm-hmm. They sold okay. The price was right, but that Amulet series, Jesus, that couldn't keep it in, and it sold well.
That's
you
crazy.
were just talking about that Amulet this morning, or at least like the 5th and 6th issue, or 5th and 6th volumes.
Well, I think they're on volume. They're publishing volume 9 this year.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You didn't mention History of Violence, which is
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that one definitely got popular with the movie. Because I had never read the comic, and then I saw this amazing movie, and I was like, well, now I got to read this comic. And the comic definitely holds up to the movie. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to read that comic after seeing Viggo Mortensen wrestling nude?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
What? Oh boy. Wasn't that other what was the movie that had Tom Hanks in it with the kid?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a Vertigo book, or was that an indie book?
Darn it! What's that movie called?
Not Destiny.
Anyone?
You're in the
Road
chat.
to Perdition. Road to Perdition.
Road to Perdition. Let me check.
And
I got the
Yep.
alphabetized
Thank
list.
you, Bearded.
it is not.
Okay. No, yeah, I don't see it either.
Um,
Always count on Greg. He's in the chat. He knows his movies. What was the other one I was going to mention that I was a fan of?
Scalped. Jason.
Scalped. Scalped is great. Was it DMZ? DMZ.
No,
right?
yes, the Brian Wood one before we knew that he was there.
I love DMZ. I thought that was a really cool comic.
It was good.
I think once again, like Brian Wood has some Warren Ellis type things going on, and now
Sure.
it's tough for me to love. I don't know.
I don't know anything about him. So is there is he hit with the Me Too?
Mm-hmm. And this is actually something that has not been recent. It was 2012, 2013 that happened.
Dark Horse removed him from everything this past year.
Oh,
they kicked him off every book.
That's a shame because it ruins a good piece of art. That's a shame.
It does. That's what we were talking about. Like, how do you separate? Because there's other creators on those books. Like, you're kind of punishing them too by not buying the book. It's rough.
Yeah. And then, there's a lot of talk at like local comic book shops. Like all of a sudden they have toxic inventory. And I mean, there's still going to be people who go into the shops and maybe want to support the creator and whatever it is, what it is. But local comic shops may have toxic inventory that aren't going to move as fast, or that they may have to mark down to actually move. So
right. I never read Lucifer.
It's okay. Like, I didn't hate it.
I feel like when it comes to those, if you're going to read that, I would recommend just reading Sandman. Like, invest the time into reading Sandman. But I mean, there's been a lot of the Sandman spin-offs, like The Dreaming and Lucifer more recently, and what else? Another Alan Moore title that I feel like does not get enough credit is Promethea.
It's not Vertigo, though, unfortunately.
It isn't?
No.
I could have sworn
it
was
America's Best Comics by Homage, but DC took it back, but I don't, unless they just put it out. Okay, so they
lie
just...
detector test determines that was a lie, Dan. Just kidding. It is. So to me, it's Vertigo. Don't you even make me bring up CD-ROMs. Okay, so to me, Promethea is Vertigo. So
in my heart,
yeah.
Promethea is great. It's an alternate Wonder Woman take that Alan Moore twist of whatever he's been doing in a cave studying magic.
Yeah, and then penning Jerusalem, just sitting there waiting for one person to finish reading Jerusalem so we can get the instructions to take back whatever the hell has happened in 2020. I guarantee you he's wrote the instructions in 2020 and or in Jerusalem, and no one's read it because it's too damn long. But maybe Promethea.
Ooh, book we forgot about. We Three.
Oh my God, another Grant Morrison.
I've never read that one. I got to add this one to the notes.
Told you, Jennifer. Told you. Chaos and Comics got my back.
It wasn't originally Vertigo. I guess they reprinted the trains. They did. So to me, it's Vertigo.
I think the same was true with Transmetropolitan, because I think the first storyline was not in a Vertigo, but now they're all labeled as Vertigo.
Oh, I thought it was Vertigo when it first came out. Could be wrong. The Wake by Scott Snyder and Sean Murphy, also who you bonded with at a show doing whale noises.
Doing whale noises. The Carl Sagan whale noises from Cosmos. Whoop. Boom.
It was published by DC Transmetropolitan, and then it moved over, I guess, as part of the imprint known as Helix.
Oh, I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah.
But before its first year was done, it moved over to Vertigo. But I mean, I'm just learning. My LCS had the first 3 trades of Transmetropolitan for 50% off, and I was like, well, then why am I not trying this? I hear it's a Vertigo.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
It's a fantastic series, and I feel like it's so relevant for now. I just think that
right?
Warren Ellis, there's just a little bit of a dark stain on a couple
Sure.
things because of some allegations. I may have a cat joining us, everyone.
All right.
In case anyone has never met my cat Luna, this is him. He's a big old boy, and he loves to cuddle.
Not like with Rodney Barnes during the interview going, is that a cat?
Is that a cat? And then like just total like
he's like the dogs in Up, right? Squirrel.
Yeah.
No, but I read the first, just for today, I was like, you know what? I should read a couple of the issues of Transmetropolitan. I read the first 3 issues, and I was like, damn, this is like straight up, like you could have pulled this right out of the news media.
Yep.
Well, like Planetary is like one of my favorite books ever, and it's by Warren Ellis with John Cassidy on art. And boy, oh boy, like it's hard to go through now with knowing what that dude was up to.
Yeah.
But
for me, it's always going to be the trilogy. For me, is always Fables, 100 Bullets, and Why the Last Man. Like those are the ones that I read again. And in fact, I probably read 100 Bullets every other year. Just go through and read all the trades and just go through and enjoy it again. Because I get new stuff out of it every time, little moments, and I'm like, I forgot that person did this or did that. It's really cool stuff. You can see how well thought out it is.
Definitely though, like the first 2 trades of Sandman in particular are so fantastic. Especially there's a story in it, Midsummer Night's Dream, which there's a huge story behind it because Neil Gaiman won the Sci-Fi Writers Award for it. People were so pissed off. By the next day, they changed the rules so they could never win again. A comic book would never, ever win again.
Yep.
Wow.
Has not won since for short story. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because I feel like when I was researching that a little bit, there's not like an official, they don't really necessarily release their guidelines for any of that. So it's not like you can see where the guidelines were changed. So it's like very heavily rumored that that is exactly what happened behind the scenes, and no single issue comic book has ever won since for short story.
Trinidad, The Wake, I will say this, like Sean Murphy draws trash and dirtiness better than anybody else.
And it's so beautifully, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And of course it ends in such a god-awful shitty way.
And if you
But that's a Vertigo staple as well. I feel like there's no happy endings in the Vertigo universe.
No, not really. If you see Sean Murphy at a convention, just go up to him and make whale noises at him, like I did, like a fucking weirdo.
I think Why the Last Man might have like the happiest of endings, but even that, it's not joyous.
No. Well, no, I meant like it didn't land the end. Like it just Scott Snyder can't write an ending.
Well,
like,
there you go. That's a different problem, I guess.
Ooh, the Anthony Bourdain book, Get Jiro.
Oh,
that is a Vertigo book. I don't.
Get
is that
Jiro?
one? Yeah, is that one with the ghost?
A Hungry Ghost is a Burger Books title.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was.
Mm-hmm. Which is so fantastic. Sorry, I have it right here on the shelf. I have a lot of love for Anthony Bourdain. So much. But yeah, it's Burger Books. So almost Vertigo because she was let go from Vertigo.
Yeah, the thing that she pretty much put together. It's just great. What did you think of the end of Fables?
I liked it. I mean, it worked for me. I know that it's hard when you have a series running that long with so many spin-offs to kind of wrap it up. And a lot of the great characters had gone away by the time they got to the ending. So they had to find ways to make it feel all-inclusive kind of at the end. But I really enjoyed it. I was very pleased.
I loved finding out when the big bad was revealed of who it was. I was like, wait, him? Like,
I think all the villains were very unusual and creative through the run of that show or that series. Sorry.
One I'm seeing on this list that I didn't read, and I'm surprised I didn't. 100% by Paul Pope.
Oh my God, 100% by Paul Pope. If I didn't have a cat on my lap right now, I would shut down because I love Paul Pope so damn much.
I'll add it to the list.
Man, everything that he does, like the Ballad of Dr. Jones. Is that what I'm thinking of?
A Battling Boy I really liked.
Battling Boy, Rise of Aurora West. And man, I went to my local comic book shop and I'm like, hey, there's a Dune comic book coming out and there's a 1 in 25 variant. And she was like, I'm pretty sure it looks like here it's a 1 in 100 variant. And I was basically like, okay, I guess I'll buy 100 comic books. And she was gracious enough to be like, you know what? Well, I'll see if I can get it. And I'm like, oh, please, Katie, please be able to get this Paul Pope variant of Dune for me. Like,
he did one of the more interesting Batman books. He did a one-shot, a little miniseries called Year 100, and it's in the future. And they talk about through history, Batman's appeared in 1968, 1986, or not 1989, and like one other time in the 90s. And they're like, and then he disappeared, and then he comes back in the future. So all the times the Batman was on TV or the movies is when he appeared.
And it's so like
fangs in like big fangs,
dark and gritty, like in only a way that, like you mentioned about Sean Murphy and his artwork just being kind of disgusting and not disgusting, but like dirty. I feel like Paul Pope has that same like dirty artwork, and I love it.
I'm sitting here going, I wonder how many people are actually listening or just like tuning out, because I know it's like the weird thing, because I know most of the YouTube community is kind of the what's in my collection, what I'm speccing, and I'm like, and here we are just like going on and on about the books we love.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think that when you were mentioning there's little niches and clicks in this community, I know there's like an auction group and there's a spec group, and I try to stay in the reading group. Like I just, and that's what I love about you guys and your channels is I like to read, and I spec on the stuff I like to read. So it's all coming for me from that. And so you say you want to talk Vertigo, I'm like, I could talk 100 Bullets, Fables, and Why the Last Man like all day. I'm happy to just go.
I could talk for hours about George Perez's run on Wonder Woman, Teen Titans. Like George Perez is one of those guys. Like his, like even like Infinity Gauntlet, I could talk about for a long time because Perez's art is just fucking beautiful. Like he's the one guy. Like his 1970s Avengers, where like Wonder Man's wearing that like green and red Christmas outfit, basically. Like Tom Byrne took over the book and immediately got rid of.
Yeah.
Even old Dark Horse I could talk about for a while.
Ooh. Yeah. Like how old are we talking about with like old Dark Horse?
So like when they started that line where it's Hellboy, Next Men, which was by John Byrne, Sin City came out right at that same point, Concrete. There's that one little area there where they're like, all right, we're going to try and put out these like new invented books. We're going to bring in these big name creators. And some of them did really well, some not so much. Like Next Men went for a while, but I think by that time John Byrne kind of like everybody was done with.
I'm like looking over here at my like Dark Horse, and it's pretty much just Black Hammer and Hellboy. There's a couple other ones, but yeah, it's Black Hammer and Hellboy.
Most people, it's like Aliens, Star Wars, a little bit of Predator, Sin City.
Right.
Yeah.
Which it's weird now that Aliens and Predator are now Marvel owns.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. It's like them buying DC or something. Now they got these whole other universes to play in, right?
I wonder if they're going to do what they did with Star Wars. We're like, we're going to put all these fucking great creators on these 2 books, and you're going to love it. Which the Star Wars, I mean, Kieran Gillen with La Roca on Darth Vader, I was like, Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
You're going to introduce this really cool character, Dr. Aphra, in issue 3?
I love me some Dr. Aphra.
Then John Cassidy was on Star Wars, like the main book.
I've never read Star Wars comics. I watched the movies and whatever, but I've never watched the animated shows, and I've never read the comics.
The Kieran Gillen Vader book is the one, like, I would just say, like, skip everything else and just read that one.
That's what I hear.
I think that you would also really enjoy Dr. Aphra. It recently got rebooted from Dr. Aphra. Now it's Star Wars Dr. Aphra.
Yeah.
So I think it's in issue number 3, got published like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think that would be, if you catch the original Dr. Aphra and the new one, I think you would really enjoy it.
Nice.
She's kind of like an evil Indiana Jones, where she's looking for.
That's what I hear.
She's an archaeologist, but she also is like a master hacker, and she has these evil R2 and 3PO that are with her that like to torture.
And she's not playing by the rules, and like, I don't know, it's good.
Because she's the punchline.
She's the punch. Because you're the joke, and she's the punchline. God damn! I swear to you, I will never pick up a fucking book that has punchline in it, because I'm just so over you being the joke and her being the punchline.
Well, one of you said something earlier about being like, oh, I'm just so tired of Batman in the Bat universe, right? And for me, it's like it's any Joker connection. I just want it gone. I just want it. I don't need Joker or Harley or Punch. I don't need any of it. Give me Two-Face and Scarface and
Black Mask,
Scarecrow, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, it's like a crutch. Everybody feels they have to use those characters because they know if they show them, people are going to buy it. And now, like the spec craze during the pandemic, there is shit selling. I don't understand why. Like literally, everybody's just grasping at straws, and it's like, I have nothing to do. I'm at home. Let me go on eBay.
Buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like everything Donny Cates puts out, everybody's drawing these connections to something else. Like, the new Thor came out. Now all of a sudden everybody's buying Ultimate Fantastic Four number 21 and 22 because it had the Marvel Zombies in it.
Yeah. But what about crossover? It was going to be a big crossover event, right?
Yeah.
And then now we're just getting a big old.
You're still bitter about that ad.
So I like to tell myself that I don't hold grudges, but apparently I do, because we just all got rickrolled with this freaking crossover. Everyone was like, we're going to get a crossover into whatever universe with Image. And no, it's just an Image title called Crossover. And your face is apparently going to get blown off. So buckle up, buttercups.
I'm glad my bitterness is rubbing off on you.
Yeah.
I contributed one thing to this show.
I think my bitterness has always been there, but it's definitely accelerated.
Yeah, Riddler, like there is a story with the Riddler. It was Dark Knight, Dark City. Peter Milligan wrote it, and the Riddler is trying to do this satanic ritual. And Grant Morrison, I guess, read it at one time and worked it into his, where like this bat demon they were trying to summon that was part of Gotham. And of course, Grant Morrison's like, this is stupid, I'll use it. Everything that like people hated from Batman, he was like, I'm going to use this. Even this stupid club of Batman impersonators, I
think a good writer can make, something amazing out of something that sounds stupid. I still think Mad Hatter is one of the most bizarre villains in that universe, but that Greg Rucka storyline in Gotham Central was like,
oh yeah,
that's amazing.
Greg Rucka is just a great writer, and I feel people sleep on him more than they should. Like,
he's blowing up right now with Old Guard and some of his stuff hitting pop culture. I got my wife to watch. What's the one in Portland that he's got? Stumptown.
Yeah.
That's on Hulu, and that's one of his books. And I think because his stuff is finally going to media beyond print, I think he's finally popping like he should. But I definitely feel like he is underappreciated.
I love his Batwoman run. Like, with him and J.H. Williams III, like, that to me is one of the things that got me buying comics in single issues, like right before I started falling in love with Image. But Mars and I are actually on Tuesday, maybe Monday, I forget which day now. We're going to actually do a little chat about Batwoman, and I'm really excited.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Also, like, I remember when that Gotham show was coming out, I was like, oh, awesome. This is going to be Gotham Central. And I was like, this is not Gotham Central at all. Like,
but they did announce something that they're working on that sounds now like in the future could be Gotham Central like, but I don't know that they're defining it specifically as Gotham Central.
Lazarus from Image by him, I really like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the issues for that, and I haven't started reading it yet.
And of course, Black Magic with him and Nicholas Scott.
Nicholas Scott.
Also,
I was the only person I know of reading Lois Lane, and I think it was amazing.
Oh, it was very good. Like, especially, I mean, it used Renee Montoya, which I really like her character. And I know I had Jen read Gotham Central for the outing issue with her and Two-Face, which...
Oh, good.
You had big
I was kind of just... I do, like, I really enjoyed Gotham Central, like, don't get me wrong. But on the back of Gotham Central... I've still got all my books for my 100 read right here because I'm afraid if I mess with this bookshelf behind me, it's going to totally fuck it up. But anyways, on the back of the book, it basically like explains everything that happens in like the penultimate issue of Gotham Central. And I was reading the whole thing. Yeah. And like I knew about some of the things, but I'm like, okay, am I supposed to know this going in? And then it wasn't until like the issue before the last one before it really revealed it. And I'm like, that's weird. But otherwise, I absolutely love it.
Man, the executives, they ruin it for everybody.
Yeah, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Greg?
But I haven't finished that run yet, so I'm on the third of the 5 trades, and it's been great up to now.
So you did the Joker Christmas.
Yeah, the Joker sniper storyline
yes.
and Mad Hatter bomber storyline were in the second trade.
That Joker one, and they stole some of it for Dark Knight.
Yes.
I felt pretty much like if you're going to steal from the best, I guess.
Right.
Did you read Pulp?
I did not, no.
It's sneaky good by Brubaker and Phillips.
Yeah. It's a hardcover, right?
I got it. Right? It's just a trade, but it wasn't hardcover. At least not the one I got. It's so good. Like the cover doesn't tell you what that damn book's about.
Yeah, several people like Rod. I know Rod read it, and Rod is a huge Brubaker fan. So if Brubaker publishes it, Rod's going to read it. I think it started because Rod read Brubaker's run on Daredevil, and he's like, I love this.
Oh, it was that's a book like Bendis did that epic run on, and then Brubaker came on afterward. I'm just like, holy shit! Like it didn't miss a beat.
No, and then even I like the Wade run after that.
I think Wade Samney was good, and then Zdarsky's run's been good.
Yeah, I when I heard Rod was loving the Brubaker stuff, I went and bought him I think I chipped in towards the 3 collected Bendis volumes. I was like, you got to read this stuff. So he's reading the Bendis stuff now. Hey. G-Spot Galvin, how you doing, man?
Hey, Robert.
So I've been feeding. He's a big Daredevil fan, and I'm a big Daredevil fan. So I
am too.
My favorite stuff. I mean, obviously Frank Miller's run is amazing, and I've gotten him to read Born Again, which is David Mazzucchelli's beautiful art. And but now it's like after that, for me, it's Bendis, and you read all the way through Brubaker and Wade. It's just this one epic masterpiece.
Where the Kevin Smith one's the forgotten thing. It's like, all right, like no, literally, like it's just like, yeah, that happened.
We don't talk about that.
I listened to the interview with him, and on his podcast he had Quesada on, and Quesada said like he handed me a script that was 100 pages long for one issue, and he's like, hey, I'd like to put some art in the book. And
Well,
they,
obviously now too, Rod and I are going crazy over Zdarsky's current run, which is just amazing.
Chichetto's art was, and then Chichetto was off, and I'm like,
yeah. The art, I will agree, without Chichetto is not as good, but the story has continued to be flippin' amazing. So
I like watching facial gestures from Jen anytime Frank Miller's name comes up.
is it like a flinch?
feelings.
Like
Kind of.
What?
I have a love-hate relationship because I
I
love
do
like
too.
Sin City was one of those things, but then I don't know.
For me, I forget all the stuff that he did outside of Batman Year One, Daredevil Born Again, and Dark Knight. Like anything else, I just throw it all away and I act like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that mean something to me.
Yeah,
Because
well, actually, his entire Daredevil run, like,
it's my favorite Daredevil run. It's my favorite Batman story. I mean, year one might be my favorite comic book, period. I think Batman, it's partly why I love Gotham Central, is the art is very reminiscent of Year One, and it feels like some of those same characters. Even Bullock shows up in Gotham Central. I just love the connection to that. So Year One is just a masterpiece for me.
and everybody's used that pearls falling to the ground thing, like, nonstop since.
There's another like eye roll. I should have like at this point like an eye roll counter on like
Right.
how many times because I swear if I see another like the pearl necklace, I don't know. I think that's why I hate seeing Batman over and over and over
Right.
again. Because even in the fucking Joker movie, it was basically a Batman origin story.
Right? Because nobody knows that story, Jennifer. We need to learn it.
I did like that about the Tom Holland Spider-Man that Marvel did, that there was no origin. It just Spider-Man, that's it.
It did pick off a few people who were like, I need my Uncle Ben. And I'm like, no, you don't. Go watch the other movies. He's died enough.
Not when you got Aunt MILF.
Aunt MILF, oh my God.
I love when he pulls his luggage down for the trip and it's got, Uncle Ben's initials. Yeah. That's all I need. He existed. Yeah. He still said all those things. We know what happened. We don't need to actually put it in a movie.
No, not at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of those, like, the Flash, you could probably do the origin. Not enough people know that one for the most part.
I don't need a Batman origin. I don't need a Superman origin. I don't need a Spider-Man origin.
And I know that Snyder cut, I'm sure Snyder's going to be like, people need to see those pearls fall again.
Yes.
But now, super slow motion, bullet time.
Right. So Sandman is your number one Vertigo. What is your number one Vertigo, Dan? If you had to just pick the one, is it Sandman or Preacher?
Swamp Thing.
Ooh, okay.
Swamp Thing's definitely my
the first volume. What was the first volume of it? It's
this one.
Yeah, there was the little text that was like, it's volume 1 something, or did they change that since?
Maybe they changed it other than like just Saga of the Swamp Thing.
Okay, so just Swamp Thing volume 1, Alan Moore will get to it, but that is
so in here it says loose ends, but I think that's just the tying up from what like Len had done Len Wein had done over so just Saga of the Swamp Thing.
I've never read. I read a little bit of Hellblazer for when Comic Tom and Fire Guy Ryan were doing a breakdown of the one when he's got cancer and he's got to trick the devil into getting his soul back. That's the only Hellblazer I read. So I've never read Swamp Thing. I know that more recently I read some of the Tinian Justice League Dark, where they've got Swamp Thing on the team, and so that's been like my only real exposure to that character.
I tried to start watching the show, and it seemed pretty interesting, but I just feel like it doesn't go dark and gritty enough. And there was a couple of those like. I use the term suspension of disbelief, and it's basically like you have this fantastic world, but then there's one minor detail that just gets to you, and it's like in Game of Thrones, we have a world that has like dragons and all of these things, but like your suspension of disbelief is this one minor little thing, and it's like, but there's a world of like dragons and stuff. So when I was watching the show, there's something that happens in like the first episode, maybe the second episode, I forget. And I was just like, what, really? And I'm like, wait, I'm just complaining too much.
No, but I mean, I feel like suspension of disbelief. Some people act like it's like a string, and if you pull it too hard, it pops. For me, it's like a scale. And at the beginning, you can throw a bunch of stuff on there, and I get it. Like, there's dragons in this world, and there's magic. But every once in a while, you throw something on there that's just a bit too heavy, and the scale flops. And now I'm like, now I just don't. Now you can do whatever you want in this world because it's just batshit crazy.
Yep.
There's actually in the Swamp Thing run an issue where they end up in Gotham, where Bullock and the other Gotham cops arrest Abby Arcane for unnatural love. And Swamp Thing comes in and unleashes his powers on Gotham.
Ooh.
Like, upends it, like, has all these psychedelic plants come out and start shooting people, and then...
I think I've seen a cover where, like, he's on the side of a building and Batman is, like, swinging towards him.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he goes through Arkham and, like, starts looking at all the crazy people in there and starts evaluating them. But there's a point Batman has a Batmobile with all these razor blades on it.
He's just
Saw
chopping.
blades coming through it. And basically Batman finally goes back and is like, look, this is a god. He's going to destroy the city. Just let her go.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out, was that in volume 1 or volume 2?
I think it's volume 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I'll have to check my local libraries and see if they've got any of the Swamp.
And then Brian K. Vaughan came in right after, I think, Alan Moore left. Somewhere
I
in
think
that.
so. And then, what's his name came in?
I think Mike Carey did too. There was a
And
bunch
then
of artists.
Snyder came in for a little bit.
He did the New 52 relaunch.
Yeah, and then like at the end of that, Jeff Lemire came in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Jeff Lemire was doing Animal Man at that time too.
Yep.
Which Animal Man for New 52 is good. I mean, not as good as Grant Morrison's, of course, but Grant Morrison, like, he's just the weirdness he pulls up. Just I love it because it's so outside the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grant Morrison, I have a love-hate relationship with. But that's, again, outside, when you're that far outside of the box, you're going to run that risk.
Yeah. You end up being like too wacky or too relatable.
Like, I love Alan Moore's Watchmen, and I love V for Vendetta, but like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is garbage to me. Like, I just did not care for that story.
I like the first volume.
I would agree that I like the first volume, but I think, I mean, obviously Alan Moore had nothing to do with the movie, but I think the movie kind of like taints the story a little bit. So if you had like watched the movie before reading it, then
it's the great history of Alan Moore, where somehow DC ends up with his property again because Jim Lee, and then they make a movie out of it, and he's just like, oh.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him. I really do, because this is a guy who wants nothing to do with this. And from what I understand, he took no money from that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie. Like, nothing.
Do you think that with the everything happening at DC right now, any chance that Alan Moore is just going to be able to slip in and get any properties back?
Oh, no. That stuff makes money. They're never not going to make something with Watchmen.
Yeah. I just want to start a GoFundMe for him. Like, let's start a GoFundMe to get, like, to buy all of his properties back from DC.
Not enough money.
And just get them. Yeah, true.
I mean, I would do a GoFundMe to get an arena for him and Grant Morrison finally have their magical wizard showdown.
Yeah.
Is it like trying to see Paul McCartney get the Beatles music back from Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, I always thought that story was a joke, that those two have been in a magical war for years. Because I like read the article one day, I was like, "This is horse shit." There's no.
It seems insane, right? It seems insane.
Yes, and like what they're arguing about's even worse.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, well, I need this to happen now. Like,
the absurdity of it is so hilarious.
Hey, Santa, how are you?
Oh, thank you, Sanimation, for the CD-ROM burn.
John, if you're wondering, I made a comment once about how I had the entire Spider-Man collection up to Straczynski, I'd bought it at the time 15 years ago, and it came in CD-ROMs. It was like a box set. And I was like, yeah, I was going through and reading old Spider-Man on it. And it has been nothing but a mountain of shit I've caught since because I used the word CD-ROM.
Because the fact that you used the word CD-ROM instead of just like CD, that's what I was making fun of. And it has devolved into just a beautiful run-on joke.
A bunch of throwbacks. Yeah, these are throwback jokes just to keep going.
Look, I'm just proud that like last week we weren't the ones that derailed the episode.
No, not at all. We were on our best behavior, and Rodney Barnes was fantastic, and that was so entertaining to me.
I enjoyed it.
I felt bad for Andrew. Andrew, all he did was get kicked off the internet and then like, came back in just 30 minutes.
When I left a moment ago, I'm like, oh my God, please don't like Rodney Barnes kill me like he murdered Andrew.
But I mean, that dude could talk forever. And I think if we'd kept going, he would have kept going.
Totally would have, which was fun.
But very candid about his life and like his career. Like it was surprising.
Yeah.
It was like by 40 minutes in, he was like, fuck it. Let's just let it all out. I was like, oh, all right. Like, I'm just going to sit here and just keep. We are getting to closing time here because I have to get ready for work. We're getting into that 2-hour mark. That went really fast.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, John. Really appreciate you coming on and talking with us. And for some reason, you read Black Monday Murders and you want to come on and talk about the insanity of it.
I'll add that to the list.
Yeah.
Don't know when we're going to do it. It'll be in September sometime. But yeah, if you ever want to come back on and talk comics, just message one of us, and we will be on Rod's show tomorrow. Hopefully, I will be awake and spry. I don't get home till about 6 a.m, so probably if I get to bed by 8 a.m., I might be okay.
Yeah.
But that should be a fun time. I've not done the show like How long have Rod and us been going back and forth about coming on?
Like at least 3 months now, like I think, or maybe even longer, because I feel like it was towards the beginning of the pandemic and quarantine, so it's been a minute.
Well, I mean, you're so popular with everybody else's show, so you know.
Hey, look, I mean, not that I don't appreciate it. No, but here's the thing: is that I think I'm a novelty to people because I feel like every time I do a show with someone, people are like, "Oh man, you're so knowledgeable for comics for a girl." And I understand that, like, to a lot of people, that's a compliment, like 100%, thank you. But I think as a woman in this sphere, I have to be very knowledgeable, because if I'm not, then I'm going to get called out or whatever. But I'm very transparent of like, oh, I don't know a lot about Green Lantern because that's just not like necessarily my jam. Other than like, I fucking love Far Sector. So like, yeah.
I'd love people to go at Nat about that, because if
right?
someone went at Nat about her like comic knowledge, it would go poorly for them, especially Green Lantern.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow, you're so precious. You're like the Ark of the Covenant. Belong in a museum. Top man.
Something like that.
I'm kidding. Yes, tomorrow on Rod's show, and then we're probably gonna have to do weekend shows for a while because my schedule is horrible. Yours is nice now for you.
It's so weird because not weird, but for the first time in my life, I work Monday through Friday, like 8 to 5, which is nuts. And I have weekends off, which I've never had in my adult life, ever had a weekend off. And now having weekends off is so bizarre to me. But is this what like adulthood feels like? Did I get a real job? Whatever.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is either. I still don't think I have an adult job, but.
So thank you for joining us, John. Where can they find you? If they
John's Comics with Kids here on YouTube and on Instagram, and apparently now on some movie app that Perry's got me on. I'm let's see, Letterboxd. I think
got an account on that.
I have 2,000 movies rated over there already. I am obsessed with
Wow.
movies. I'm
So
obsessed.
did you just sit there and be like, hold on, let me look at every movie in my collection?
And yeah, I mean, yeah, they're all right there.
Woo.
You're almost as bad as I am. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Um,
it is an obsession.
John, I just have to say, like, how much I appreciate, like, Saturday mornings, like, waking up and, like, I'll wake up at, like, 8:30, and I'm like, I look forward to your Saturday morning show, like, with your kids talking about comics. Like, it's literally, I roll not out of bed, I'm still in bed, and I'm like, is it on? Did I miss it? And, like, literally every Saturday morning I tune into this. I love it. I appreciate it so much. So, video chat, like, please check out John's comics, and especially Saturday mornings are incredible. So
we've been doing it for almost 2 years, and they've always been great readers, but it's fun to hear them kind of have to articulate it, because you can go back and watch like the early ones when Charlie was like 7 and she's like trying to articulate the book and what she read, and she would usually just lay there and cuddle and just kind of like mumble a little something. And it's fun to see them growing.
You can definitely see that, because they'll be like, okay, here's the story, and like this happens to this character and this happens to this character, and you do such a good job of like reining them in and being like, okay, so you want to give people the story, but not too much. Don't give anything away, but you're kind of rambling a little bit, so it's adorable, and I love it. I love it a lot.
That's cute. I do try to find a lot of like ladies like yourself that love comics and have YouTube and have because it's a smaller niche, right? There's not nearly enough, and I think they're always like, are there a lot of other girls that like comics? Because we like comics, and it's fun for them to have ladies like you and Fuchsia only. I know they really love Fuchsia, and so it's fun for them to see like, no, this is cool for anybody to enjoy. You just find stories you like.
Yeah.
I might reach out to you again, because we had Jennifer did a questionnaire about what people wanted to see on the channel, and apparently people want us to talk more about comic movies and stuff. So might reach out to you again.
I love them.
Let's get Perry and do Man of Steel.
Oh man, yeah, Perry's dropping his reaction to that, and I was definitely giving him a little grief, because I was like, yeah,
I didn't hate the movie, but I thought there was opportunities that they just missed completely on.
Well, and I think Snyder in general takes a lot of liberties with the source material, and I think that was the big frustration for Superman fans, is they wanted their Superman, the guy that doesn't just snap somebody's neck when he doesn't like him, and the one who, if he could save his dad, would fly over there in a second and actually just ignore everybody and do it.
But I felt by the end of Justice League, I got the Superman I wanted.
That's fair.
He was having fun. Like, finally, he wasn't, Dad's dead.
Yeah, right.
I've got this hot girlfriend, Amy Adams, and everybody wants help. Everybody wants help.
Oh man!
Like, he's so emo. Like, it's just. I
loved the trailer for Man of Steel, and I wanted that movie. The trailer movie is the one I wanted, and I got something else.
Like, I wanted to do, like, in Batman v Superman, him like turning at a point and having Peter Parker's head from Spider-Man 3 with the like emo flap when he was like painted by Venom.
He starts dancing.
Yes.
I've got another cat.
Oh, you've got the yin and the yang going.
I do.
Oh.
That is the hottest take Bearded Comic Bro has ever dropped in his life. I'm sorry.
That was a life choice.
I'm definitely going to at you about that one.
This needs to be like a whole debate right now.
Pacino, and wasn't Robert De Niro in that too?
No, it was Pacino and Warren Beatty.
I thought, okay, I was like, was De Niro one of the villains in it?
I don't think so.
There was such a marketing blitz behind that movie.
If you want an offbeat pick for best comic book movie, I'm a big American Splendor fan. I think that movie is phenomenal.
Yep.
That is a hugely underappreciated, underloved. And not only that, a movie that blends an animated movie, a fiction movie, and a documentary into like one epic biopic. It's phenomenal.
The underappreciated but darkest fucking movie I've ever watched, Super, by James Gunn.
Oh,
I love that one.
is that the one with
Rainn
what's his name
Wilson.
from The
Rainn
Office?
Wilson.
Yeah.
Rainn Wilson and oh shit, what's her name? Oh my god, Kitty Pryde, right?
Yeah,
Ellen Page.
Ellen Page, yes.
Yeah.
Which I always think of Hard Candy because that movie spooked the fuck out of me.
As it should. That movie was
Every
amazing.
sexual predator should have to watch that movie, or if you have a friend who may be having thoughts, because what she did to Night Owl.
Right. What she did to Night Owl, I love it. That's hilarious.
Hello, everything. Comics.
Good to see you, Bob.
When she's like going, oh yeah, I shot you full of drugs. I've seen my dad do neuter before, so I think I can do this. Oh boy, that movie. Woo.
Yeah.
The only thing that's close to that was Audition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched both of those in the same week.
How did we get over to torture porn?
Yeah.
I went on a
To
whole
like
movie.
softcore torture porn.
I thought we were on comic book movies and we derailed.
Yeah, well, it was like I went on that weird like Takashi Miike kick, and then all these Korean horror movies and like not horror movies, like I Saw the Devil, and I went like on a run of them, and I was just like, holy shit, these people don't fuck around. This is gruesome. I recommend I Saw the Devil to anybody. That movie is fucking insane.
I don't think I've seen that one.
This cop, his sister gets raped and assaulted by this criminal. So he finds him and finds out he's getting out. So he knocks him out and puts a tracker in his tooth. So this guy keeps going to perpetrate crimes. Every time he's about to do something, this cop pops out and just starts beating the shit out of him. Who's this girl's brother? And he finally figures out like what's going on. So he tries to set the cop up. It's an interesting movie.
What was this called? One more
Bob,
time?
I Saw the Devil.
I think Bob found this show because of the community tab where I posted it. This is Dan's channel, Comic Chop News.
Hello.
Make sure you hit the subscribe button and sub him up.
And everything. You're from Portland.
Yes, he is. He's a good friend of Comic with Bueller. You might have seen him on with Bueller sometime.
Yep.
I think he watches your channel because he's been on once before. Because I think when I showed up on your show randomly.
Yeah, because he knows clearly you're from Portland. Portland United.
Portland.
Well, the cops are.
Yikes. There was a fire last night that I could smell. And I'm like, fuck, what's going on downtown tonight? But it had nothing to do with that. It was just like a house fire.
So what do you do? Open your window, go, no, nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. No, I smell pizza though.
Yeah. Oh man, the pizza here. There's so much good pizza. There's so much good food. So much good comics.
Like, never has Nat been more enamored and like fascinated. But when you were telling her about the drive-through strip club,
I don't think that they're doing the drive-through strip club anymore. I think it just went back to like a regular strip club. Not that I know.
What about Boober Eats?
That was Boober. I'm pretty sure that they're not doing because that was the same one. Dante's, was it Dante's that was doing it?
So you can't get strippers to deliver your food anymore?
Well, I'm sure you probably still could get a stripper to do that, but
here's your pie.
100% I would. But I went to go do it, and there was an extra $30 delivery fee, and I was like, I'm paying like $50 for this food, and then like another $30, which I get because the strippers do come with security, so that's cool. But I was like, I'm not going to do that right now. And then,
do you have to put it in their thong?
I wish. I have to stay 6 feet away. Womp womp.
They just have their smartphone with the little Clover or
right.
What's that other portable?
Either that, or they'll have like a sign up that says like Venmo, Cash App, PayPal.
Yeah. Slide here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Natalie's like, oh, and there's a Lovecraft bar. Oh.
Well,
she literally took plane tickets.
It's not called the Lovecraft anymore. It's called the Coffin. I mean, they've only opened for like some exclusive events, but They are now going to be called the Coffin Club because they're separating themselves away from H.P. Lovecraft. So we'll see when they open back up.
The Andrew Eldritch bar. Okay, so like I said before, gonna sign off now. Thank you everybody for watching, and really appreciate everybody coming in the chat, participating, and watching. John, for coming on. Really appreciate having you on finally.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really enjoyable chat. Like that went way too fast. So take care, everybody, and we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.